And if you feel comfortable, shoes off, and let's just try to feel our feet and see where we are checking in. Are you over to the right? Are you more over to the left? Are you more forward or more backwards? So just checking in where our starting point is today. And then from here, we're going to work on doing big weight shifts. So weight shifting all the way over, so much so that you could probably lift that toe up. And then weight shift, weight shift. And as you're doing this, trying to stand tall. And if you feel comfortable, you can even raise that toe up. And it doesn't have to be a high lift. It can be just high enough that it's hovering the ground. And as you're doing this, focusing on rolling through your feet as you're moving side to side. And now we're going to slow this down. So we're going to do it half speed. So you may find that slowing things down makes it a little bit more challenging for our balance. But it's really helpful to build awareness of how we're moving. And now let's start working on going forward and backwards. So coming forward, we'll do a big weight shift. So you're coming up onto your toes and then back onto your heels. Toes and heels. Toes and heels. And hopefully you're feeling how you're moving through your feet. And you may feel like you need a chair for support. And just think we're getting our feet just warmed up. So checking in with how much our toes are working. Are they having to really grip the floor as we're coming up? Or does it feel more like it's coming from our calf? All right, we're going to go back to side, and this time we're going to tighten it up. So we're just going to weight shift over to the right and then to the left. To the right and to the left. And I want you to feel what's happening to the middle part of your foot. Is your foot feel like it is flattening, or are you able to keep your arch up? If you're feeling like your foot is flattening, that's going to be something I want you to try to focus on. Is as you're weight shifting, try to keep your middle part of your foot up like a upside down cup. That keeps your the small muscles in your feet engaged. Okay, now we're going to work on moving forward and back. When we do this, we're only going to go as far forward as we can where our heels aren't lifting up. This is called working on your limits of stability. So going as far forward as you can without lifting, and then coming as far back as you can without lifting your toes. So really moving through that range of motion you have at your ankles and your feet. And make sure you're breathing. Don't stop breathing. Good. And let's come back to center and check in with our feet again. Are you feeling like you're over to the right or to the left, more forward, more backwards, or you feel more centered? in the middle of your feet. And from here, we're going to work on weight shifting in a figure 8 movement. So we're going to come up and forward, around and back, swoop it to the other side. When you're doing this, I want this really to come from your feet and ankles. A little bit is going to come from your hips, but I don't want it to be like you're hula hooping. This is really about getting your feet and ankles warmed up. And if you can, working on standing tall as you're doing this. You may feel like your toes are working to get you weight shifting. Let's do one more. And then we're going to do the opposite figure 8. So now we're coming to the other side. And you may find that one direction of your figure 8 is harder to do than the other. So for me, this direction of the figure 8 is a lot harder for me to coordinate. I have to think about it compared to the other side. So when I'm doing this side, I really want I'm getting my hips engaged, and my brain is telling me, nope, this should be for my feet and ankles. So it's just getting the right muscles to fire. Good. And again, come to center. Hopefully feeling like you are right in the middle part of your foot, that your arch is lifted. From here, we're going to work on our toe wave. So that's where I think about our foot is having 4 points. So 2 by the ball of your feet, 2 at your heel, and you're keeping all 4 points in contact with the floor. And we're going to work on, I'm just going to come closer so you can see, just lifting your toe and then relaxing it down. Lift and relax down. The whole idea with this is that we are just warming up our toes so that way they are able to kick in without having to get everything else pulled in. For this, you can either do 1 foot at a time, you can alternate, or you can do both. And you actually may find that doing both together is easier than alternating, just because of how your brain likes to talk to your feet. You're getting a lot of communication, and it's a stronger signal coming to your feet. Good. And if you can, as you're doing this, trying to keep yourself standing tall and trying not to weight shift. So think that you are staying stable, that those 4 points on the bottom part of your foot are staying in contact. It's like your feet are glued to the floor, and it's just your toes lifting up. All right. So from here, again, we're checking in with our feet, making sure we're centered. If you can, trying to lift your arch, and we're going to work on our heel raises. So we're going to come up, float it up, and then back down. We're going to do just 10 where it's 1 count up, 1 count down. So up and back down. If you're looking for an extra challenge, you can add in your arm. So you can float them up and back down. Float them up and back down. And up, back down, up and back down, up and back down, up and back down. Let's do 2 more. Up and back down, up and back down. All right, from here, let's go into a lunge. So we're just going to stretch out that calf. I'm going to have you just check in with your back foot so that your toes are pointing straight ahead. There's going to be a tendency to want to have your toes pointing out that way, but you're going to get more of a benefit from the stretch with your toes pointing straight ahead. And from here, we're going to work on weight shifting up, like pointing our toe and then coming back down. Weight shift up. You can even lift your leg for an added challenge and back down into that lunge. Weight shift and lift and back down. Standing tall, weight shift and lift and roll through your foot. Weight shift and lift. You hopefully are squeezing your tush if you're lifting, and back down. Weight shift, lift, roll back down. Let's do 2 more. Weight shift, lift, roll back down. 1 more. Weight shift, lift, and roll back down. Let's switch legs. So coming into that lunge stretch, we're just gonna stand here for a couple of seconds, checking in with our back toe, making sure that it's pointing forward, not out to the side, keeping our trunk tall. And then from here, we're gonna work on our weight shift forward, and you can lift that leg up if you'd like, and then roll back down. Weight shift up, squeeze that tush, and back down. Weight shift up, and roll back down. Weight shift up, and back down. Weight shift up, and back down. Rolling through our feet. Let's do 2 more. Good. 1 more. And then let's come back to center. Again, finding center. So this is going to be something we work on every time we're coming back to center, making sure we're finding the middle. Now we're going to work on our heel raises. We're going to go up for 1 count and then down for 3 counts. And you can add in your arms, you can float them up and back down as we do it. All right, let's go. So up and then slowly come down. And up, slowly come down. 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 Let's do 2 more. Up, slowly come down. 1 more. Up, slowly come down. All right, from here, let's get into a little bit of a side lunge. So we're gonna just side lunge. You can stick your tush out. And we're gonna work on, from here, weight shifting and then come back down. Weight shift, and your weight shift could be coming here or it could be raising your leg up. So we're just working on more dynamic weight shifts today. As you're doing this, trying to keep your trunk really tall, and especially as you're coming over to that standing leg, try not to tip over as you do it. So push, and then roll through your foot. Push, roll through your foot. Push, roll through your foot. Push, and roll. Push, and roll. Push, and roll. Let's do one more. Push, and roll. Let's switch legs. So now you're going to come into a lunge on the other side. You're just helping open up your hips a little bit. And then we're going to weight shift. So you're going to weight shift away and in. Away and in. Away and roll through your foot. Away and in. Away and roll. Away and roll. Away and roll. Away and roll. Let's do two more. Away and roll. Away and roll. Coming back to center. Again, feeling your feet, feeling where you're feeling centered. And we're going to do heel raises again. This time we're going to go up for 2, down for 2. And you can add in arms if that feels comfortable. Let's go. So we're raising up for 2 and down for 2. As you're coming down, really come down with control. Raise up for 2 and down for 2. Up for 2, 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 down for 2. Let's do 2 more. Up for 2, down for 2. Up for 2, down for 2. Okay, coming back into that lunge, that forward lunge. We're going to just stretch out our calf a little bit, and then we're going to work on that weight shift with the leg lift. This is wonderful because we're working on strengthening our tush, and we're also stretching out our calf all at once. All right, from here, we're going to go up, raise that toe. If you want to add in arms, you can do an arm lift here and come back down. And lift, arms up and back down. And lift and back down. Lift and back down. Lift and back down. Lift and back down. Lift. As you're lifting, squeeze that tush. Lift and back down. Lift and back down. 2 more. Lift and back down. 1 more. Lift and back down. Let's switch sides. So then getting just into that lunge, keeping your trunk up tall, checking in with your back foot to make sure it's not turned out to the side, but pointing hopefully straight ahead. And then we're going to lift. So you can either have hands here, or hold on to a chair. We're going to lift up, squeeze that tush, and float it down. Lift up and back 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 down. Trying to keep that leg long behind you. Lift up and back down. Lift up and back down. lift up and back down, lift up and back down. Let's do 2 more. Up and back down, lift up and back down. Coming back to center, feeling your feet. You can hold on to a chair or have hands on hips. We're going to do our hip circles next. So for this, it's drawing that half circle with our big toe. So we come forward, draw all the way around as you're coming back, squeezing your tush and bringing it in. We're going to do 10 going clockwise, 10 counterclockwise. If you want an extra challenge, you can just hover your toe over the ground. Let's go. So 1, and bring it in. 2, and bring it in. 3, and bring it in. 4, and bring it in. 5, and bring it in. 6, and bring it in. 7, and bring it in. 8, and bring it in. 9, and bring it in. 10, and bring it in. As you're doing this, check in with your posture. Make sure you're standing tall, trying to keep everything stacked. Now we're going to go counterclockwise. So bringing it back and around, that's 1. Bring it in. This is 2. And in. 3. And in. 4. And in. 5. And in. 6. And in. 7. And in. 8. And in. 9. And in. 1 more to go. 10. And in. All right, so let's shake it out. Working on just pedaling through our knees, our hips, and our feet. Weight shifting side to side. You can make it even bigger by really getting some hip action. Because we're going to do the other side. All right, so again, finding center. It's the theme of today. And we're going to do 10 clockwise, 10 counterclockwise. All right, so let's start with counterclockwise on this side. So you're reaching forward, coming around, squeezing your tush, and coming back in. And again, forward and around. That's 2. Bring it around. That's 3. And forward and around. That's 4. Forward and around. That's 5. Forward and around. That's 6. Forward and around. That's 7. Forward and around. That's 8. Forward and around. That's 9. Forward and around. That's 10. Now let's go backwards. So reaching back, squeezing that tush, bringing it around. That's 1. Bring it back and around. That's 2. Reach it back and around. That's 3. Reach it back and around. That's 4. Reach it back and around. That's 5. Reach it back and around. That's 6. Reach it back and around. That's 7. Reach it back and around. That's 8. Reach it back and around. That's 9. Reach it back and around. And that's 10. Again, let's work on just weight shifting side to side. All right, and then we're gonna come to center again, work on getting grounded, and we're gonna work on just some pelvic motion. So we're gonna work on tucking our pelvis. I'm just gonna turn to the side so hopefully you can see a little bit better. So I always think about it as if you have tail feathers. So you're gonna tuck your tail feathers and then stick your tail feathers out. Tuck and stick your tail feathers out. Tuck your tail feathers, stick them out, tuck, stick out. And when you're doing this, it's okay to have a bend in your knee unless you have really flexible hamstrings. You're probably going to need to have a bend in your knee. All right, and next, what we're gonna do is some hip circles. So thinking about the face of a clock, we're just gonna work on going around the clock, and then we'll come back to the other side. So trying to make this hip circle as big as you can. As you're doing this, hopefully you're feeling that you're weight shifting through your feet. One thing I want you to focus in on is what is your head doing? So my hope is that your head is actually staying fairly stable as you're doing this. And that your hips and your trunk are moving basically around this axis there your head is on. Because that really helps isolate the movement from your hips. And come back to center. And from here, we're going to do, just like we did at the feet, we're going to do figure eights. So we're going to scoop it around and then the other side and come back to center. So let's do a couple going in this direction. And again, want you just feeling what's going on at your feet. Can you feel how you're weight shifting through your feet as you're moving your hips? So often, everything gets really tight in our trunk, and it's hard to move just our hips. Okay, and let's try going the opposite direction now. And you may find that one direction of this figure eight is more challenging to do than the other. And that's really just how our brain talks to the different sides of our body. All right, and coming back to center. So feeling your feet, hopefully arches are still lifted. And from here, we're gonna think about the face of the clock. We're gonna do our lunges to the different numbers. So we're first just gonna work on going from 1 o'clock to 12, and then we'll go back from 12 to 1. Okay, so standing tall and trying to make this motion as big as you can. And as you're coming to your number, rolling through your feet and then getting some nice push off as you come back to center. All right, let's go. So 1, bring it in. 2, bring it in. 3, and bring it in. 4, and bring it in. 5, and bring it in. 6, and bring it in. Let's switch feet. 7, bring it in. 8 and bring it in, 9 and bring it in, 10 and in, 11 and in, going to 12 and in. Now we're going counterclockwise. So 12 o'clock and in, 11 o'clock and in, 10 o'clock and in, 9 o'clock and in, 8 o'clock and in, 7 o'clock and in, 6 o'clock and in. Switch feet. 5 o'clock and in, 4 o'clock and in, 3 o'clock and in, 2 o'clock and in, 1 o'clock and in. We're going to do it one more time, going in both directions. 12 o'clock and in, 1 o'clock and in, 2 o'clock and in, 3 o'clock and in. As you're doing this, try to make sure your shoulders are facing forward. 4 o'clock and in, 5 o'clock and in, 6 o'clock and in. Switch feet. 7 o'clock and in, 8 o'clock and in, 9 o'clock in, 10 o'clock in, 11 o'clock and in, and 12 o'clock and in, counterclockwise. So 12 o'clock and in, 11 o'clock and in, 10 o'clock and in, 9 o'clock and in, 8 o'clock and in, 7 o'clock and in, 6 o'clock and in. Switch legs. 5 o'clock and in, 4 o'clock and in, 3 o'clock and in, 2 o'clock and in, 1 o'clock and in. You may wonder why this is something we do every class, and this is really to work on training our balance reactions. So specifically in Parkinson's, a balanced reaction step where you are taking a step to catch yourself is the most effective balance strategy rather than a cross step. And so we want to train that. And so that's why we do the face of the clock. Really working on moving and weight shifting and weight acceptance in all different directions. All right, so we're keeping with the face of the clock, but I'm going to call out different numbers. So things are going to be a little bit more random. So standing up tall, let's go to 11 o'clock. And back in. Let's go to 6 o'clock. And back in. Let's go to 3 o'clock. And back in. And let's go to 7 o'clock. Back in. Let's go to 1 o'clock. And back in. Let's go to 5 o'clock. And back in. Let's go to 10 o'clock. Back in. Let's go to 2 o'clock. And back in. I'm now going to have us work on trying to increase the speed that you're taking that step. We'll still go at the same pace, but I want your step to be quicker. Okay, let's go to 8 o'clock. So it's like you're catching yourself and come back in. Let's go to 3 o'clock. And back in. Let's go to 11 o'clock. And back in. Let's go to 6 o'clock. And back in. Let's go to 2 o'clock. and back in. Let's go to 5 o'clock. And back in. Let's go to 6 o'clock. And back in. Let's go to 9 o'clock. And back in. Let's go to 1 o'clock. And back in. 5 o'clock. And back in. Let's go to 11 o'clock. And back in. 6 o'clock. 3 o'clock. And then 9 o'clock. Good. Great job, everyone. All right. So let's find our center again. Working on getting balance, checking in with our feet. Hopefully your arches are still lifted. And what we're going to work on is standing and doing some head turns. So moving our head can throw off our balance. But this is a really functional skill to be able to do. Where I always tell people this translates to is going to the grocery store. Think that you're standing in one place and you're looking for, your favorite tomato sauce. All right, so now let's switch to up and down. The quicker the speed that you do this, the more challenging it is for your balance. All right, now let's add in a little extra fun. We're going to do diagonals. So looking up to the right and then down to the left. So again, just looking for that tomato sauce, spaghetti sauce that's your favorite brand. Gosh, where did they move it? That was pretty much how I felt this week at Wegmans. I felt like they moved everything. And then let's switch, go in the opposite direction. So up to the left, down to the right. So as you're doing this, you may want to check in with your feet. Are your feet still feeling grounded, or are your toes feeling like they're having to really grip the floor to keep you standing tall? And back to center. All right. So you may want to just shake out your feet a little bit, especially if they felt like they were working hard during that. So next, what we're going to work on is standing heel to toe. And if you feel comfortable, we're going to add in some forward steps. Then if you want an extra challenge, you can do backward steps too. So different variations, you can just stand in one place. You could add in forward stepping and then backwards. As you're doing this, checking in with your posture, making sure you're standing tall. If you're feeling like this is going really well, but you're noticing that you're looking down at your feet, I want to challenge you to try to bring your gaze up. And then let's come back to center. Again, feeling our feet. And you may want to have a chair close by. We're going to work on standing, closing our eyes. So feeling grounded through your feet, you're just going to close your eyes, trying to keep your body stable as you do that. This is a great way to really hone in on what's going on at your feet. So often we become reliant on our vision to help us with our balance, that your brain has a hard time listening to all the information that's coming from your feet. And let's do eyes open. We're going to do another round of that. If that felt really comfortable, then let's bring our base of support in. So it can either be feet together or you can have your feet staggered, whichever feels more comfortable to you and you feel safe doing. So when you feel ready, you're going to close your eyes. You may find that your body, especially your trunk, feels a little bit more wobbly. Your toes may be curling in more towards the floor now, and that's normal. It's really great for us to practice this because our brain needs to get information from our feet and ankles to be able to figure out how you're moving in space. And eyes open. And let's bring feet apart. And let's do one more round now, eyes closed, but with feet apart. And you may find that this second round with our feet apart is a little bit easier than the first round. And part of that has to do with our brain just getting more information from our feet, less reliant on our vision. And eyes open. Next, we're going to move into standing on one leg. So for today, you may want to have a chair right by you. We're going to work on bringing our knee up with this. So if this doesn't feel comfortable, then you can, of course, have your leg here. We're going to just work on bringing your knee up. You can hold on to a chair. And float your leg down. And then let's try the other side. Just bringing your knee up higher. And again, if this doesn't feel comfortable, this is a great place for us to be working. Or, standing on one leg feels really challenging, you can just hover your toe. And float it down. And now we're going to work on bringing our knee out to the side. So we've talked in previous classes about how much I like practicing standing on one leg with our raised up leg, doing all different positions or different movements. And it's because, when we ask our standing leg to really pull in for stability, we're never just standing on one leg. We usually have our leg lifted or, we're catching our balance. There's a lot of different moving parts to it. So it's good for us to practice that. And bring it down. And then let's do the other side. And hopefully your standing leg is feeling strong and engaged. Like it is working hard. And float it down. All right, one more exercise of standing on one leg. So we're going to stand and we're going to work on writing the alphabet with our foot. And then when you're finished, you're going to switch to the other side. If you can, working on trying to get your letters to be as big as you can make them. All right, let's float it down. And then when you're ready, we'll come to your chair. And if this feels comfortable, crossing your leg over, helping open up your hip, get a nice stretch on the side. And then if that feels like you need a little bit more stretch, you can always lean forward. And then from here, we're going to hook onto our toes and give just a gentle pull down to help open up the top parts of our feet and ankles, because they've been working hard today. They deserve a little stretch. And then we're going to switch directions. And so pulling your toes up, give a nice gentle stretch to the arch of your foot. And bring it down. And then let's do the other side. So just hopefully opening up that hip, feeling a good stretch through the side part of your hip. And then if you feel like you'd like more, you can always lean forward. As you're leaning forward, try to keep your spine lined up. So if you think about, you're really just hinging from your hip rather than rolling forward. And then when you're ready, this feels comfortable, you can give a gentle pull to the tops of your toes to help open up the top part of your foot. And then when you're ready, giving a gentle pull, pulling your toes up to stretch out your arch. Good. All right, and then let's float it down. And let's just end with some nice big breaths opening up through our chest. Let's do 5 big breaths. So we'll breathe in, arms come up. Hopefully you're looking up towards the ceiling, and then breathe out. Breathe in. and out. Breathe in and out. Breathe in and out. One more. Breathe in and out. All right, you've crossed the finish line for me for today. You guys did wonderful.